if we really want this to happen in classes, we ought to be treating and honoring and respecting different entry points for all of us, right? And so when you remove the threat of evaluation and judgment, and instead you presume positive intentions of everyone, that they're here because they want to be here, they're here because they're open to learning. When you take those threats away and you create those conditions where people are really open to collaborating together, then they may take their time, but they will find themselves safe enough psychologically to begin to have conversations. We saw incredible growth among teachers. And, to be honest, and I made this very clear, I didn't care where they saw themselves on the continuum. It didn't matter. And I didn't need to know. The rubrics are a continuum of learning and thinking, right? So the learning progressions, there are 6 C's. I'll go through them: collaboration, citizenship, character, which is really all about grit and resilience, communication, creativity, and critical thinking. And so each one of those C's has really precise language about what do we mean by communication? What do we mean by collaboration? And I think this is the biggest gift of this work, because I think as educators for a long time, we've been talking in pretty cloudy ways about what we mean by collaboration. And while these rubrics provide us with more precision, there is a wide acceptance globally in this project that we haven't arrived, that as a part of this large collaborative inquiry, we're going to refine those, because we'll get smarter as we go. But this is our beginning space. This is how we're right now thinking about these 6 C's. But the language, the precision in the language, really helps teachers and teams and all of us to look for this in our students. What I also see is there are some teachers that are sharing this quite as they would share this quite candidly with kids. And kids are now latching onto this language and understanding what it means to be a really great collaborator within the classroom. So this has had incredible power in terms of making our collaboration as professionals much deeper, much more meaningful, because we can have a really rich conversation about student work using these rubrics. But there's also tools for school conditions and system conditions. They call it cluster, but it's the district conditions. And how powerful is that for me as a superintendent, that I can take these tools for school conditions. And this is just part of how we talk about the work we're doing with principals. So these tools, again, become our conversation anchor for our learning and our reflection. And they come out all the time. The teachers were all willing to engage, some of them quicker than others. By the time we had come to the end of our first year of this work, I put out to teachers that, because we're part of this global partnership and we're contributing to the artifacts to the Canadian cluster, and really there needs to be a collective acknowledgement that while this work is powerful for you personally, there's still so much for all of us to gain from this work, that we put out a choice for our teachers. We said to them, you've all been collaborating at the very least with your school. You can share your artifacts with your school only if you like. Or you could choose to share it with this network. Or you could choose to share it with our board. Or you could choose to share this beyond our board, more globally. And we won't judge you, or we won't hold account for you, but we do expect you to share it with at least a few people. And that because you create those conditions where all along people have been sharing and they haven't felt threatened, that most of our teachers were willing to go beyond their board. And they not only shared their best work, but they took a lot of extra time and care in how they shared those reflections, how they shared their insights, and most importantly, how they shared their stumbling pieces. And imagine going from a place where normally teachers don't want to reveal their mistakes and places where they've fumbled, to a place where, yes, I'm prepared to share that, and I'm prepared to share it beyond my board, because this is hard work and others will follow me. And because we're not going to get anywhere if all we ever see is the finished product, right? We'll just try to replicate that. Instead, what we need to understand is, what are people's stories? What are their narratives? What was happening in the classroom along the way? What decisions were going through your head? Why did you choose to make that shift or that adaptation? Why did you introduce that concept then? What was going on in the classroom? And that's the kind of thing that other professionals need to understand. There's no question. It's making an incredible difference already, so quickly, that we see students that are achieving like they've never achieved before. We had students come and speak to our network about the kind of work they were doing and the impact they were having. They weren't only speaking about the fact that they all wanted to pursue a field that the inquiry kind of revealed or whatever. They were excited about the learning, absolutely, but it was the community that they built within their classroom. That for the first time, they understood the thoughts of their peers and they felt comfortable with each other. And they felt that kind of skill was going to be what took them into the future. And students, again, who maybe traditionally wouldn't shine in a class, were shining. So that's one piece. And that's in very, very short turnaround. But the second piece is that teachers who, and many of them told me this, that teachers who previously had felt a little stale, maybe not turned on as much, their curiosity was as charged up as the kids were. And what an incredible opportunity to give the joy back to teachers, right? That they're excited again. And so it's everybody who's learning and engaging and feeling as though they can make a difference, because these kids were feeling as though they could make a difference. In one of our schools, students became very, very interested in Nepal, and they had lots of questions. Grade 3, they ended up writing letters to the world leaders because they were going to make a difference. They ended up holding a bake sale, and this is again driven by the students holding a bake sale. Let's get some money to where it needs to go to support these people on behalf of the Red Cross and so on. So that's pretty powerful stuff, and it's driven by them.